Hello, it's Declan Seefeld here, and today I'm going to be promoting my new movie, Sherlock Holmes, Memories of Murder. I've got some hot sauces here, and some lovely chicken wings, and my partner Maria is behind the camera, and she's going to be asking me some questions to do with the movie and my experiences, and I hope you enjoy.
Nice.
That's nice.
What are your earliest memories of watching films? Can you remember when you learned that it was possible to make films?
My earliest memories watching films, probably when I was 2 or 3 or 4 even, watching things like Shrek and lots of the early Pixar movies as well, like Monsters Inc. and Finding Nemo, and even things like Stuart Little. And we had the VCRs of them, and I've actually still got them. After the movie played, like actually on the VCR, they had like bonus features and stuff like that if you sit through the credits. And they had like Mike Myers for Shrek doing the voice, and lots of the animators saying like, oh yeah, it was so hard making this animated movie and so on. And that was really the first time I remember. So like literally from one of the first movies I saw, just going like, oh wow, there are people behind the scenes doing voices for all this stuff. And then I think it was, a couple of years later when I watched a movie called Chicken Little, where my dad was like, oh, that's the same voice from this other movie. And I was like, oh, holy crap. There's different actors and they can do different movies and so on, and that kind of opened my eyes to the wonders of film in a way. I probably prefer the first one, but it was good.
What's the value you see in making movies, and why have you done it for so long?
I think the value I see in making movies is probably just expressing yourself. Like on this movie, Sherlock Holmes, there's ideas that I put into the film that I haven't seen in other movies. And I think the real value in making anything really is just being able to put a part of yourself out there for other people to see. And just making something unique to you and special that no one else can really make. That's the value I see in making films. But why have I done it for so long? I think mostly because, particularly with anything creative really, but with film, it's something where you can keep improving from your last project to your next project. Like the first thing I ever made was just a very short thing with my friends from primary school. And the camera was set up like this, and it was one shot, and we were just sword fighting with our toy swords. And then like cut to this one now, we've got so many different cameras and different lenses and so on and lights, so you can just keep upgrading and keep on moving along and stuff. So that's really why I think I keep doing it, is you can keep improving on the last project. And this project is one that I'm really proud of, Sherlock Holmes, Memories of Murder. Let's try it.
When did the idea for Sherlock Holmes, Memories of Murder initially come to you? Do you remember what sparked it?
You know what's funny? This one is probably the least spiciest of all. But the idea for Sherlock Holmes, Memories of Murder, it went through a lot of revisions. Initially, actually, I was inspired with this plot twist idea that you'll see towards the end of the film when you watch it. When I was watching a film called Death on the Nile, with Kenneth Branagh, and unfortunately I didn't really like the film, but I think some good came out of that, in that my mind started to wander, and I thought, what could I do to make this better? And this idea came into my mind of this plot twist that I couldn't get out of my mind. And I kept thinking, how could it work? How could it work? Because it was such a big plot twist for a murder mystery detective film. And I've been fortunate enough to go to university and study film. And in my final year, I actually ended up writing out the script for this film and submitting it as an assignment. And at the time, it wasn't a Sherlock Holmes film. It was just a film, I think the detective's name was Albert or something like that. But a lot of the script and dialogue that you see in the final film is actually in that initial script that I wrote out. And I got quite good marks for it, and everyone else in the class was just blown away with the plot twist at the end. And after that assignment, I still just couldn't get the idea out of my head. And I knew that I just had to make it go from the script to actually filming. And so I added in the Sherlock Holmes elements because I felt like potentially there'd be more of an audience if it was an intellectual property that people knew. And then I got John and Blake involved, and it came from there. So that's kind of where the original idea came from. It was from watching Death on the Nile in 2021, I think it was, and now here we are in 2024, it finally coming out. Through so many revisions, Albert to Sherlock, and now here we are.
What were some of the films and experiences that inspired you to make Sherlock Holmes Memories of Murder?
Oh, that one's hot. The films and experiences. As I kind of alluded to, I kind of drew on a lot of my experiences from actually being at film school at QUT. And there were lots of theory-based subjects, which I actually quite enjoyed, maybe more than some of the others, because I learnt a lot about history of film and lots of different techniques and so on that I probably wouldn't have experienced otherwise, such as film noir, things in particular. Film noir is basically really dark, moody sort of films, and I did quite a few assignments on film noir while I was at uni, and me and my brother watched a lot of different film noir things, such as the movie Seven or John Wick, the Batman movies, lots of others. And so I really wanted to try and do my own sort of murder mystery, film noir kind of movie. And lots of the elements of film noir are stuff like sort of female characters that are really shifty and shady and manipulate the main character, and you have that in this movie. And also a detective that's kind of really behind in the modern world, and normally is kind of a grizzled old detective, and people are moving on and past him, and you see that in this movie as well. And one of the big things at the end of a film noir movie is that often the protagonist, the detective, is left in a worse position than where he was at the start of the movie, and you see that in here as well. So really, I think those were the main things that kind of inspired this movie, were film noir movies, and in particular things like John Wick. Knives Out as well was a big one, and Seven as well. Just stuff like that, I think, really inspired this movie. And then, in addition to that, I've been a big fan of superhero movies for such a long time. And in recent years, it's been really disheartening to see that the quality, in my opinion, of a lot of those movies has really gone downhill. in putting a popular IP like Sherlock Holmes in this movie, I really wanted to make a commentary on that. Maybe suggest that maybe there's a time when popular film franchises should end. And if you go past that, it just kind of tarnishes your legacy. And I think that's even a line in the film, is that I feel like we've tarnished our legacy. So really those were the things that I was inspired by. The down clone of superhero movies, and also a lot of film noir stuff. And I wanted to put those together into one thing in Sherlock Holmes. Oh geez, this one's called Ghost Pepper. I think that's pretty infamous, isn't it? Oh boy. Okay. Not bad.
Before this film, you produced Finding Declan. What key learnings did you take from your experience on Finding Declan that you used while producing Sherlock Holmes? What new things did you learn while filming this movie?
I think probably the main thing that I took from Finding Declan was lots of editing techniques. Like, you spend so much time in the editing room just putting clips together and so on. And one thing that I learned when I was making that was actually called L cuts or J cuts, which is where you put one clip and the other clip kind of over top of each other, so that it kind of speeds up the pace, and that the person talking in this clip is over the top of the other clip. And it just kind of makes the movie feel a lot more natural if you've got L cuts or J cuts. So that was probably the main thing I learned. But when you watch the movie, I also have a very small part. And I think actually just being on camera in Finding Declan, because I played all the characters in that one, really just made me comfortable on film, and I watched a lot of myself and I knew how to express my face and so on. And so I felt it was quite easy for me to be on camera for this film, Sherlock Holmes. In terms of things that I learned new on this film, as I kind of said, I was the only character in that last one. And so something new that I learned was just talking with other actors, particularly because a lot of them were a lot older and had a lot more experience than me. And so just talking with them and making them feel comfortable and getting them to come out with the performances that I needed from them, I think that was probably the main thing that I'd take away. Just making them feel comfortable on set and make them know that the film that we were making was going to be worth their time, because they were doing a massive favour to be in this film, and they wanted to know that it was going to be worth their time. And so just putting them at ease, showing them that we had all the lights and cameras and so on and microphones, and that it was going to be a good production, I think that's probably the main thing that I'll take on to my next film. We got 2 to go. Phantom Buffalo. Oh, I put a lot on. Okay. Here we go. It's fine. It's fine.
What is the best part about filming a movie and the worst part about filming a movie?
Best part about filming a movie is definitely being on set. And I quite enjoy just experimenting with different ideas and so on. And it's quite funny when there's different takes that you may do and you stuff up, and watching them back later. That's probably my favorite thing, is just being on set and experimenting with lots of people. Oh, this one's bad. Yeah, I just love being on set, and particularly being outdoors. There's lots of fresh air, and then the worst part is directly after that, when you have to sit for months and months and just edit it all together. And I find that quite a lonely experience. And by the end of it, you just want to cry like you are now, because you just, because you just learnt the film off by heart, and you just want to make it end and make people go out and watch it straight away, but you got to keep with it. That's the worst thing. Yeah, best thing being on set, and worst thing is editing the thing. If I could outsource that to someone else, I'd much appreciate that. Okay, we got one more. Oh, and it's red. It's really red. And I put so much on as well. Oh, this is gonna be bad. What's it called? Holy Brain Killer. It's the brain killer. Oh, okay. Not bad. Let's ask the question before it hits in.
What are the messages that you hope audiences take away from watching Sherlock Holmes: Memories of Murder?
Messages? More than anything, I hope that everyone just enjoys watching it. I think there's lots of different plot twists and so on, engaging characters, and a mystery to solve. Oh, it's not as bad. But I think the messages that I hope people take away are the importance of looking inwards at yourself and not thinking that you're a perfect individual and that you're capable of making mistakes. The other thing that I kind of spoke about already, it hit. I spoke about it, is knowing when to walk away. Particularly if you're on a franchise. And knowing when you've reached your peak and you can't get any better. And just to walk away, and there's nothing wrong with that. Kind of like how I should have walked away from the hot sauces here. And if you keep going, you eventually go downhill. The last thing, and I think this is probably the most important thing, and this was in my head from the very first script that I wrote, was the importance of, particularly for men, their mental and physical health, and not being afraid to go to a doctor, or just with men's health to to accept when something is wrong and not feel shame in going to the doctor, or just accepting that you're not immune to diseases and illnesses. And so, I'm gonna say, my throat is killing me. And so, particularly any men watching this, and women too, if something's wrong, make sure you do go to the doctor. I might have to go to the doctor after this. But those are the messages I'd say take away from this movie. It's just, know when there's something wrong with your health and not to ignore the signs. And I forget the other things I said, but they were important too, and I hope that people take those lessons away. But just, if you can take your own message away as well, that's that's good enough for me. Oh. Oh. Well, that concludes this interview. I hope you enjoyed watching it, and be sure to check out Sherlock Holmes: Memories of Murder when it comes out on this platform right here, YouTube, very soon, June 16.